Come on in. Get comfortable. I want to tell you a story. It's about a road most folks have learned to forget. And it's about the house that sits at the very end of it, silent and waiting.
See, you have to understand, some houses, they don't just get left behind or fall into ruin. No, they get avoided.
This all happens on Briar Hill Road. It's the kind of place where the trees grow so close together, they seem to be whispering to each other over the cracked pavement. Now, the locals, they know the stories. They know it's waiting at the end of that road, and that's exactly why they don't go there. But Evan Turner, he wasn't a local. He was a real estate photographer, a practical guy. You know the type. Probably a lot like you. He believed in what he could see, in good lighting and solid facts, not in ghost stories.
So when the job popped up, all he saw were the numbers. It was a last-minute gig for a house that was selling for a steal, a cash deal. And get this, no other photographers were even bidding for it. Now, a deal like that should be a massive red flag, right? But for a practical man like Evan, it just sounded like an opportunity. A simple job. Get in, snap the photos, get out, get paid. What could be easier?
But the drive out there, it felt wrong. His GPS just gave up miles back. The road got narrower and narrower until the branches from these old, gnarled trees were scraping along his car windows, just clawing at the glass and blocking out the sun. The whole world outside his car just went completely silent. The only thing he could hear was his own engine. And then he saw it. The house. It wasn't ruined or scary looking. It was just paused, like it was holding its breath. And the second he stepped out of his car, the silence hit him like a physical thing. It was heavy, total. You know that feeling? No wind rustling the leaves, no buzzing insects, not a single bird. Just this deep, suffocating stillness. The air itself felt thick and old. Almost like the last breath someone took in this spot a century ago was just hanging there.
He walked up the porch steps, the old wood groaning under his feet. He reached for the big, ornate handle on the front door, gave it a turn, and it just opened. Smooth as anything. Convenient, he probably thought to himself. For a practical guy, an unlocked door is just a time saver. For a house like this, it's an invitation.
Stepping inside was like stepping into a perfect tomb. The furniture was all there, covered in this fine, even layer of dust, like a shroud. Paintings were hanging perfectly straight on the walls. It was like walking into a photograph from 100 years ago. And there, on the fireplace mantel, was a heavy carriage clock. Its hands were frozen, stopped cold at 2:12. But Evan, he was a pro. He had a job to do. He didn't waste time. He just raised his camera, thinking about the right angles, the best lighting. The sound of the shutter snapped through the silence. And each time it did, the sound felt wrong. It was like a gunshot in a library, echoing through the dead, thick air. It felt like he was trespassing. As he made his way through the ground floor, this feeling just started to creep up his spine, a cold little prickle of awareness. It felt like the house didn't like having its picture taken. It felt like the silence wasn't empty at all. It was watching. He made his way upstairs and found a room at the far end of the hall. It was totally empty except for one thing, a single dark wooden chair sitting right in the middle of the room, facing away from him. Weird. He lifted his camera, framed the shot, click. He lowered the camera, and his heart just stopped. The chair had moved. It was now turned perfectly to face him. His pulse was hammering in his ears. That's impossible, he thought. He quickly looked down at his camera's screen, and in the photo he had just taken, the chair was still facing the wall. But when he looked back up with his own two eyes, there it was, staring right at him. And that was it. That was enough. No paycheck was worth this feeling. Evan just turned and bolted. His quick walk turned into a run, back down the hall, pounding down the stairs. The practical part of his brain was scrambling for some logical reason, but every instinct was just screaming one thing: leave. He got to the front door, grabbed the handle, yanked it. And nothing. It was locked. It felt like it was welded shut. And then
He heard a sound. A soft, wet, clicking sound. It wasn't his camera this time, and it came from behind him. With ice in his veins, he slowly turned around. And at the very top of the stairs, where there had been nothing, absolutely nothing, just a few seconds ago, a tall, dark figure was standing, perfectly still, and it was watching him.
His voice was barely a whisper. The figure tilted its head, this slow, unnatural movement, and it started coming down the stairs. One step, then another, each one slow and deliberate. As it got closer, he could see its face, or the lack of one. It was just a smooth, blank expanse of skin where the eyes and the mouth and the nose were supposed to be. There was just nothing.
Evan stumbled backwards until his back hit the front door. Hard. This was it. This was the moment that the real world, his practical, logical world of light and shadows and facts, just shattered into a million pieces.
It spoke, but not from a mouth, because it didn't have one. The voice just bloomed inside his head, a cold, clear whisper that came from everywhere and nowhere. "You already left," it said. Evan just shook his head, trying to make sense of it. "No, I'm right here." The figure lifted one of its long, thin arms, and it pointed, not at him, behind him, through the door. He turned and pressed his face against the little glass panels in the door, and he saw himself, a perfect copy. He watched himself walk calmly down the porch steps. He watched his own double get into his car, start the engine, and just drive away down Briar Hill Road without ever looking back. He was watching himself escape while the real him was still trapped inside. And that cold voice whispered in his skull one last time, like a final judgment. The house keeps what it wants. And just like that, the last of the gray light from the windows just went out, vanished into a thick, total darkness. Evan opened his mouth to scream, but the ancient, heavy silence of that house just reached out and swallowed the sound before it ever left his throat. The next morning, the sun came up over Briar Hill Road, and the last house just stood there, same as it ever did, silent, still. Evan Turner's car was gone. The real estate agency never got his photos. As far as the world was concerned, he just finished the job and disappeared. But inside that house, something had changed. Up in that bare room, at the end of the hall, the wooden chair wasn't facing the wall anymore. It was facing the door. And it was no longer empty. A figure was sitting in it, utterly, perfectly still.
Waiting. Because the house is always waiting. Waiting for the next practical person who comes along, the next person who's sure that stories are just stories. So really, the question isn't whether Evan believed them in the end. The real question is, do you?
If you want to hear true events, crime-related story, hit like and do subscribe Fear Labs 99, because the next story is even darker.